Okay, so we are reading Ikigai, and we are on chapter 3, page number 47 of the book and page number 35 of the PDF.
The basic principles of Mudita therapy. Number 1, accept your feelings. If we have obsessive thoughts, we should not try to control them or get rid of them. If we do, they become more intense. Regarding human emotions, the Zen master would say, if we try to get rid of one wave with another, we end up with an infinite sea.
So see, again, when we have a thought or a feeling, if we connect with them, we give them more power. Okay. If we attempt to get rid of them, then we are thinking of that thought again. So the point is to integrate them, accept them, and then to transcend them. That's the only way that you can actually transcend a feeling or a thought.
We don't create our feelings, they simply come to us, and we have to accept them. The trick is welcoming them. Morita likened emotions to the weather. We can't predict or control them, we can only observe them. To this point, he often quoted the Vietnamese monk Thich Nhat Hanh, who would say, "Hello, solitude, how are you today? Come sit with me, and I will care for you."
Now go ahead.
Number 2, do what you should be doing. We shouldn't focus on eliminating symptoms because recovery will come on its own. We should focus instead on the present moment, and if we are suffering, on accepting that suffering. Above all, we should avoid intellectualizing the situation.
So again, if we focus on the symptom, then we are not focused on the cause. So when we look at the hierarchy of how the symptom occurs, everything occurs because of a stress. The stress will cause a dis-ease. The dis-ease will cause a disease. The disease will cause the symptom. Now, most allopathic systems are focused on eliminating the symptom and not the cause. So the only way that you can actually eliminate the stress is to focus in the present moment to understand what is actually causing the stress. And then the symptom will automatically get eliminated. But if I focus on the symptom, then I'm not focusing on the cause. Okay.
The therapist's mission is to develop the patient's character so he or she can face any situation, and character is grounded in the things we do.
So now when he's saying develop the patient's character, so what are we talking about in awareness all the time? We are talking about resilience, about empowerment, how to empower a person so that they can face themselves, be competent of facing any kind of situation. Now I had a time, I'm talking about 20-30 years back, when I used to get phone calls that this is my problem, and I used to go and do something over there to rectify the problem for the person. But over the years, I started finding that when I had taken care of an issue for a person with using my energy, I used to find that the same problem used to recur after some time. So that's when I realized, and that's the reason why I went after the Monroe stuff so vehemently, because I found that today, if you don't empower the person or change the state of consciousness from which the person is operating, and the person is doing the same thing which caused the original problem in the first case, then the problem is bound to recur. So a shift in consciousness, a shift in, empowering the person became extremely important in this game. So he says over here, the therapist's mission is to develop the patient's character so that he can face any situation. Okay.
Morita therapy does not offer its patients explanations, but rather allows them to learn from their actions and activities. It doesn't tell you how to meditate or how to keep a diary the way Western therapies do. It is up to the patient to make discoveries through experience.
So how do we learn? There are two ways in which we can learn. We can get knowledge by reading, or someone is giving us some knowledge, or we can learn through experience. But when we experience something, it gets grouted in us. And when it is, sprinkled with the tadka of knowledge, then that becomes wisdom. So the more knowledge, information and the experience, when they merge together, or the knowledge and experience merge together, that is when we really start transcending things. It becomes actual information for you.
Number 3, discover your life's purpose. We can't control our emotions, but we can take charge of our actions every day. This is why we should have a clear sense of our purpose and always keep Murita's mantra in mind. What do we need to be doing right now? What action should we be taking? The key to achieving this is having a dared to look inside yourself to find your ikigai.
So again, this is where that intuitive ability also starts to creep in. What is it that I need to do right now? What is the first task that I need to complete? Everyone has a multiple task list, right? What do I need to do now? And when we jack into the flow, when we jack into our ikigai, I'm equating ikigai with flow. When you jack into that, you get an innate understanding that this is what you need to do first and this is what you need to do second. And when you start doing that, instead of stressing about I have to do this, 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 you'll see that whatever tasks the universe tells you that okay, you need to do this now, you do it and things will automatically start falling into place. Okay, and I'm talking from experience. There's so much happening, but everything is happening. And believe me, if you ask me, am I planning it? I'm not planning it. I just get up and ask the question, what do I need to do right now? And I just go ahead and do that. I don't clutter my head that I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do that. Because if I do that, then I will not be doing whatever I'm doing also. Because if I'm reading a book, I'm thinking about doing something else. So I'm neither reading the book nor doing that other thing. So if I'm told you do this right now, I'll focus and just get that done. And I find everything continuously gets done.
The 4 phases of Murita therapy. Murita's original treatment, which lasts 15 to 21 days, consists of the following stages. Isolation and rest, 5 to 7 days. During the first week of treatment, the patient rests in a room without any external stimuli.
So now what is this? Isolation, quietening the mind, actually starting to get in touch with yourself. This is also one of the main premises of Vipassana. What I hear, I have not attended the program. It's in one of my bucket lists. I don't know when it will happen because of Mr. Corona. But the fact of the matter is that we are not in touch with ourselves. We are so associated with the external stimuli that we really don't have time to listen to ourselves also.
No televisions, books, family, friends, or speaking. All the patient has is his thoughts. He lies down for most of the day and is visited regularly by the therapist, who tries to avoid interacting with him as much as possible. The therapist simply advises the patient to continue observing the rise and fall of his emotions as he lies there. When the patient gets bored and wants to start doing things again, he is ready to move on to the next stage of therapy.
So this is very difficult. Okay, doing nothing, just being is not such an easy task, because we've got so cued into doing things that sitting and doing nothing, it troubles people. You cannot imagine, you can go crazy with that.
Number 2, light occupational therapy, 5 to 7 days. In this stage, the patient performs repetitive tasks in silence. One of these is keeping a diary about his thoughts and feelings. The patient goes outside for a week of being shut in, takes walks in nature, and does breathing exercises. He also starts doing simple activities such as gardening, drawing, or painting. During this stage, the patient is still not allowed to talk to anyone except the therapist.
So we lose a lot of energy because of talking. Okay. Now, when we are talking, we are all the time thinking also as to what we are going to say. Now, that itself takes up a lot of energy. So the moment we have, when you start becoming quiet, when you start listening more than talking more, you will find that a lot of energy gets saved for yourself. Okay, and then you're focusing, since you're not talking, you're focused on the task that you are doing, so it brings you into the present moment.
Number 3, occupational therapy, 5 to 7 days. In this stage, the patient performs tasks that require physical movement. Dr. Murita liked to take his patients to the mountains to chop wood. In addition to physical tasks, the patient is also immersed in other activities such as writing, painting, or making ceramics. The patient can speak with others at this stage, but only about the tasks at hand.
Okay, so now when you're talking of the task at hand, again you're focused in the present moment. You will find that most of the time you're talking, you are gossiping, which is again making assumptions. When we did the 4 agreements, what were the 4 tenets? One was do not do your best, do not make assumptions. What else was there? Yeah, 4 of them. I have to write it down.
Be
Does anyone
impeccable
remember?
with your
Be
word.
impeccable with your
Yeah,
word.
be impeccable with your word, and don't take things
Don't
personally.
take it personally.
Okay. Now, if I'm focused on the task and I can only talk of the task, then all the 4 tenets are being met. Because I'm focused on the task, I'm doing the best I can. I'm impeccable with my word because I'm not talking here and there. I will not take things personally because it's related to the task only. And I will not make assumptions because whatever I'm asking, that is it. There is no question of making assumption. So again, all 4 tenets of the 4 agreements are met when we are doing this occupational therapy.
Number 4, the return to social life and the real world. The patient leaves the hospital and is reintroduced to social life, but maintains the practice of meditation and occupational therapy developed during treatment. The idea is to re-enter society as a new person with a sense of purpose and without being controlled by social or emotional pressures.
So all the other 3, you're getting in touch with yourself. Okay, the first thing, what does it do? It isolates you. So it puts you in touch with your emotional setup. The second one puts you in touch with your physical being. The third one brings you into the present moment. Okay, now as soon as all these 3 things are put into structure, when you come back into society, you are a changed person. Why? Because you're more focused on the now. You're in touch with your emotional side and you're in touch with your physical side. So automatically all the tenets of the 4 agreements, you are more spontaneous. Why? Your 4 S's are also being met because you're more in the present. Okay, whatever comes up to you, you will start doing that. If you are in the present, automatically thinking of the future, planning and past guilt will automatically drop off. Okay, whatever task you're doing, it automatically will become easy for you, and whatever is coming into your life, that is the highest good. That is what you're doing and you're accepting it. So the 4 tenets of the 4 agreements, the 4 S's, all are met when you come back after that particular therapy. So it automatically creates a shift in your state of consciousness.
Nikan meditation. Murita was a great Zen master of Nikan introspective meditation. Much of his therapy draws on his knowledge and mastery of this school, which centers on 3 questions the individual must ask him or herself. What have I received from person X? What have I given to person X? What problems have I caused person X? Through these reflections, we stop identifying others as the cause of our problems and deepen our own sense of responsibility.
Now this becomes important. Now when we are looking at it from the point of view or perspective of zero limits, one of the main tenets is taking responsibility. So you take responsibility for anything that is happening to you. And in zero limits, it goes one step further, where it says that anything that comes into your awareness, you are responsible for. So if I am looking, if I read these, what have I received from X? So it's me generated, it's not dependent on the other person. What have I given? What I have given. Okay. Have I caused, am I the cause of a problem? It's not that X is a cause of the problem. Am I the cause of a problem? So we are shifting the perspective of the blame game from the other to introspection within ourselves.
Through these reflections, we stop identifying others as the cause of our problems and deepen our own sense of responsibility. As Morita said, if you are angry and want to fight, think about it for 3 days before coming to blows. After 3 days, the intense desire to fight will pass on its own.
So again, over here, what is there? There is something called an amygdala hijack, where because of an emotional trigger, which is something which you are reflecting from the past, triggers you into a kind of a flight and fight action mode where you go to fight. Now, as soon as you give it some time, the cortex, when a stimulus comes from our senses, the sensory pathway to the amygdala is shorter than the pathway to the frontal cortex, where all our logical thinking is done. Okay. Now, as soon as we go into that mode, we go into an amygdala hijack and we go into a reaction. Now, what he's saying over here is wait for 3 days. So as soon as you wait for 3 days, the amygdala cools down and the neocortex starts to work, which will automatically tell you fighting is not the solution to anything. Most of the time when we are fighting, it is from a lower, it is a sense of survival that is kicking in, not a higher sense of consciousness. You will find that people who operate in a higher state of consciousness hardly have any conflicts, because they have come to know from that higher state that conflict does not create any value in the long run.
And now, Ikigai. Logotherapy and Morita therapy are both grounded in a personal, unique experience that you can access without therapists or spiritual retreats. The mission of finding your Ikigai, your existential fuel.
So now both these therapies are basically putting you in touch with yourself so that you can understand yourself better. At the end of the day, that is the game. There is no other game. And the more you understand yourself, the more you will understand what is happening around you and what is your actual path. What are you here for? Which again translates into your Ikigai.
Niket, I have a question, please.
Yeah, please.
At times in a situation, you behave in a particular manner where you can't reason, you can't seem to identify as to why you're behaving like that. So am I to believe that it's an amygdala response from some past experience which makes you behave in that particular way?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Again, when we are looking at it from an amygdala hijack, this was very well described in that book, Emotional Intelligence. Okay, Indra Bhavi, you have to speak up a little bit. Okay. So now in emotional intelligence, it's very well described what an amygdala hijack is. And it is exactly that. All your past experiences are stored in the thalamus. No. Not the thymus gland. Yeah, in the thalamus part, and amygdala is a part of the thalamus.
Okay.
And you are cued in, because anything that you are experiencing with your sensory perception, we may think that we are seeing things, right? But half of the stuff is created by the brain from old memories. So when we are getting a stimulus, it tags into the memory system of what you have experienced previously, and says that, you see, that was the same situation which happened. Now it infers that this is the way that you need to act. So that acts from a grosser level, it acts from the survival mode. Okay, and you go into survival mode, so you react in that manner. But you give it some time, then the neocortex takes over and the logical thinking will also start taking over. We find this also when we are doing biofield tuning. We come to states of consciousness where, let's say you had a fight when you were 4 years old with a friend of yours. Now that is hanging in your field. So it's like a rock in your backpack. Now, anytime you're making a friendship and anything similar to that particular incident takes place later on in your life, you will react in the same way. And that's how patterns get created in your life. So you keep repeating the pattern. That's why in our workshops, we are constantly telling people that observe the patterns in your life. If the same thing is happening to you over and over again, please understand that the universe is telling you pay attention to this because you need to transcend it. Because let us say you are in class 1, right? You've learned whatever you need to learn in class 1 and now you've gone to class 2. Will you come back to class 1?
No, naturally not.
You get that? So you're not going to come back to class 1. So why do you need to repeat something in your life? So if the same thing is repeating over and over again, that means you've not learned the lesson. That's why it's repeating. So the moment you learn the lesson, now anything that is depleting, it's a problem. But if something is uplifting, it's taking you up into a higher state of consciousness, then that repetition is not a problem. But if it's taking you into a lower state of consciousness, then it becomes a problem. Okay, so that's the game over here.
So the best thing is to stay with it, right?
Unless you make yourself aware of it, how are you going to deal with it? I'm not saying stay with it, become aware of it, then accept it, then find a solution to it, right? What will work? Brainstorm. And then implement it and then see whether it's working or not.
Okay.
So then when you find a pattern, what are you doing about that pattern? That becomes the most important thing. If you're going to stay with the pattern, then you're stuck with the pattern. What are you doing about the pattern becomes important here.
Right.
Okay. Ashanti, you had unmuted. You want to say something? Ashanti?
No, better.
Okay. Shimangla, you're on.
Once you find it, it is only a matter of having the courage and making the effort to stay on the right path.
Okay, so now this becomes important. Connecting with that inner guidance. Most of the time we are operating from this small state of consciousness, which is totally ego driven. When we connect into that larger state and we get our life path, that this is what I meant to do, then it takes a lot of courage to stay on that, because society will try to pull you. Your old systems around you will try to pull you. Now, it takes a lot of effort in the sense, again, the point is that it's actually effortless, but it seems to take a lot of effort to stay on the path. But once you jack into the flow and you allow the flow into your life, then you'll find that one thing after the other keeps happening and you don't have to do anything about it. You just accept what is happening and move on it. Say yes. Most of the time we are saying no, can't, won't. All these words have to drop from the vocabulary. Once you start saying yes, the universe will find a way to allow you to do whatever is necessary for you to do.
In the following chapters, we'll take a look at the basic tools you'll need to get moving along the path, finding flow in the task you've chosen to do, eating in a balanced and mindful way, doing low-intensity exercise, and learning not to give in when difficulties arise.
So again, finding the flow. This is what we've been talking about. So when you find the flow, you automatically relate to any task that you're doing. Now, anything that comes into your life, you have all the tools to be able to do it. Otherwise, the task would not have come into your life. Okay. Eating in a balanced way, not overeating. Over here, it said 80% full only. You see, even if you overeat, it takes energy to digest the food also. So you need to eat in a moderate amount, just the amount that you really need, and in a mindful way. You need to eat with being mindful. Just in Indian culture, we eat with our fingers. That is also very important because we've got sensory, the most number of nerves are in these top of the fingers. So when the food is being touched by the fingers, the signal is already going to the system that, okay, this food is coming, be prepared to digest it. Okay, low intensity exercise, again, movement. You have to keep moving. The more just gentle movement. We are not made for these heavy fitness movement. You'll find that anyone who goes into weightlifting and all that, the moment they stop doing it, everything gets removed, because that's not the normal way. If you see these bulges and all that, that's not our normal constitution. Our normal constitution is not that muscular build. It is just being healthy. Okay, and learning not to give in to when difficulties arise. That is where your inner resilience kicks in, your ability to handle the stress. What strategies have you learned? What strategies you can put in place so that you can manage the situation and not get fluttered by it. Okay, I'm not saying I'm doodh ka dhula hua. Certain situations flutter me also, but the bounce back is much quicker. Your ability to take a higher view and see a bigger picture starts to kick in when we start clicking into these higher states of consciousness. I always tell people when they attend the Monroe workshops that one statement you're going to start making in your life is, I told you so. Because you have an overview, because of that expansion in consciousness, you can automatically see a bigger picture, and you make a suggestion to people, they won't listen to you, but you'll find after some time they're doing exactly what you told them to do. So you'll land up saying, I told you so. But you need to refrain from doing that. I've learned the hard way, let me tell you. You need to refrain from saying that. Make it that guy's idea. It's as simple as that. And then you'll again jack into the flow because you're pulling them into the flow. The moment you say, I told you so, a part of the ego starts kicking into the picture.
In order to do this, you have to accept that the world, like the people who live in it, is imperfect, but that it is still full of opportunities for growth and achievement.
So
Are you
opportunities,
ready?
yeah, opportunities are always there. You have to just keep your sensory perception open to see what opportunity is available. And when you get into the flow, let me tell you, you'll get an intuitive inclination towards a thing. Just go with it.
Are you ready to throw yourself into your passion as if it were the most important thing in the world?
Okay, so now once you know your ikigai, once you know what you are here for, you have to get into it whole hog. Restraining yourself doesn't work. Again, can't, won't, shouldn't, should. All these words should go into the dustbin or flush down the toilet.
Find flow in everything you do. How to turn work and free time into spaces for growth. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act but a habit. Aristotle.
So again, excellence is not an act but a habit. So the more you jack into what, the more you do something, the better at it you technically become. So if I practice being on the right side of the grid, if I practice, uplifting thoughts, if I watch my thoughts for uplifting thoughts, if I drop all the kachra thoughts that I have, if I focus on what is taking me to a higher state of consciousness, automatically that is what will start manifesting in my life, because the universe is infinitely compassionate. Whatever you desire, it manifests for you. So watching our thoughts, that's what Robert Monroe says when we do the gateway voyage. Ultimately, it comes down to taking responsibility and then watching your thoughts, because your thoughts is what creates something. So if I have a desire in my mind, it is a thought, it is my desire. And what manifests? My desire manifests. So having uplifting thoughts becomes extremely important. So we must practice uplifting thoughts rather than depleting thoughts. Now, again, if you go back to four agreements, One of the tenets was do not make assumptions. And most of the time, what are we doing? We are gossiping. If we are gossiping, it's an assumption because you really do not know whether it's a fact or not. So again, when you're gossiping, it's a depleting thought. Most of the time, what will you gossip about? All depleting stuff. So if you, what are your thoughts becomes extremely important. So higher thinking, make that a habit, according to me. And that's what will lead to excellence.
Going with the flow. Imagine you are skiing down one of your favorite slopes. Powdery snow flies up on both sides of you like white sand. Conditions are perfect. You are entirely focused on skiing as well as you can. You know exactly how to move at each movement. There is no future, no past. There is only the present. You feel the snow, your skis, your body, and your consciousness united as a single entity. You're completely immersed in the experience, not thinking about or distracted by anything else. Your ego dissolves and you become part of what you are doing.
So now, if you start thinking about, you're not, when you're skiing down at that high speed, if your ego starts coming in and you get distracted even for a second, you're gone. So what happens? Intense kind of experiential experiences force you to come into the present. And this is one of the reasons why people are so energized when they take up high risk sports, because it gives them that focus, it brings them into the present moment, it gets them out of the anxiety of the future and the guilt of the past and brings them into that moment. So that's why, and then they crave it more and more. Okay, this is exactly what he's saying over here.
This is the kind of experience Bruce Lee described with his famous "Be water, my friend." We've all felt our sense of time vanish when we lose ourselves in an activity we enjoy. We start cooking, and before we know it, several hours have passed. We spend an afternoon with a book and forget about the world going by until we notice the sunset and realize we haven't eaten dinner. We go surfing and don't realize how many hours we have spent in the water until the next day when our muscles ache.
So be water, my friend. So water takes the shape of anything that you put it in, right? So whatever is happening with you, if you can take the shape of that in your life, then you'll automatically be in the present moment. And when you're in the present moment and when you're enjoying what you're doing, then time ceases to exist. Okay, when you're doing something which you're not really engrossed in, which is not your passion, then time extends. When you're doing something that you really enjoy, time slows down and you really don't know how time has passed. So
The
that is the
opposite,
basic idea, to get engrossed in anything that you do.
the opposite can also happen. When we have to complete a task we don't want to do, every minute feels like a lifetime and we can't stop looking at our watch. As the quip attributed to Einstein goes, put your hand on a hot stove for a minute and it seems like an hour. Sit with a pretty girl for an hour and it seems like a minute. That is relativity.
So when we go into these expanded states of consciousness, time and space are irrelevant. They do not exist. वो अपने बोलते ना ब्रह्मा जी का एक पलक झपकना यहाँ पे 10,000 साल के बराबर है, or something like that, that statement is, because time and space is very, very relative. Okay.
The funny thing is that someone else might really enjoy the same task, but we want to finish it as quickly as possible.
So again, it's a perspective. What works for someone may not work for another one. What someone enjoys, the other guy may not enjoy. So again, it's all dependent on our ikigai. What's our passion? What are we interested in?
What makes us enjoy doing something so much that we forget about whatever worries we might have while we do it? When are we happiest? These questions can help us discover our ikigai.
So this is a very vital question. when was I happy? And let me tell you, in my life, I was doing all this stuff and I was having a great time. And then what happened was that it got boring because I was doing the same thing all the time and I was not bringing new stuff into it. Okay. And then it got boring, so I came back into business. And then one day I was just meditating, I was sitting down and I was thinking, when was I happy? And I found I was happy when I was doing all this stuff that we are doing right now. And then I consciously made a decision to make myself irrelevant in my own office. Okay. So now I have all the time to do all this that I enjoy doing. Again, when you come back to the tenant, what we talked about yesterday, where we said that Robert Monroe had said, make A list, B list, and C list. What you need to get to is eliminate A list totally because it's irrelevant. Do everything that you need to do in B list and get it out of the way. So your entire life comes into C list. And what is your C list? What you want to do. Okay. That's the first tenet of Ikigai. And then the three other tenets come kick in. That are you good at it? Is it is it something that the world requires? And can you get paid for it? If everything that is there in your C list can meet these four tenets, then you are made it. Because everything that you do will be your Ikigai.
The, the power of flow. These questions are also at the heart of psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi's research into the experience of being completely immersed in what we are doing. Csikszentmihalyi calls this state flow and described it as the pleasure, delight, creativity, and process when we are completely immersed in life.
So again, when we are in the flow, it's pleasurable. You automatically become creative because the creative ideas start downloading and the process becomes extremely efficient.
There is no magic recipe for finding happiness, for living according to your ikigai. But one key ingredient is the ability to reach this state of flow and, through this state, to have an optimal experience.
Yeah. So when you connect, you're automatically shifted into a higher state of consciousness. And when you are shifted into that higher state, it becomes the optimal experience. Okay. And then you can enhance it. You can continuously enhance it. Like when we are talking about focus levels, there are many here who've attended the focus levels. When you first attend focus level 10, you'll find you don't want to come back from 10. Then you experience 12, you'll find you don't want to come back from 10, from 12, and 10 becomes normal. Then you experience 15, you find 15 is a higher state of consciousness. Now you say, that's the state. And now 12 does not seem like that high state. So as we go higher, and this happens with druggies also, they want a higher and higher and higher kick, but it is dependent. It is not something which is something you can create from your own self. But when we are going into the higher states of consciousness, we can, all of us, let me tell you, go into these states. But we don't know that we are going into these states. The moment you start acknowledging and knowing where you're going, then the wonder starts to get activated. So the optimal state keeps getting achieved.
There is no magic recipe for finding happiness, for living according to your ikigai, but one key ingredient is the ability to reach this state of flow and, through this state, to have an optimal experience. In order to achieve this optimal experience, we have to focus on increasing the time we spend on activities that bring us to this state of flow, rather than allowing ourselves to get caught up in activities that offer immediate pleasure, like eating too much, abusing drugs or alcohol, or stuffing ourselves with chocolate in front of the TV.
So again, if you make a list of all the stuff that you've been doing during the day, you will be able to find out where you're spending more time. Are you when are you on the right side of the grid? When are the tenets being met? The four S's and the four agreements. You'll find if you start observing what you're doing through the day, you will be able to start optimally using your time rather than doing unnecessary stuff. Like if you're doing alcohol or drugs, you're always on the left side of the grid. It may give you momentarily pleasure to put you on the right side for a moment, but ultimately, if you keep doing it, it's going to put you on the left side of the grid. If you are tagging into higher states of consciousness, you'll never go onto the left side of the grid. You'll always be on the right side. If you're overeating, again, it's the left side. If you're over watching any television or you're overdoing something, again, it will put you on the left side of the grid ultimately.
As Csikszentmihalyi asserts in his book Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience, flow is the state in which people are so involved in an activity that nothing else seems to matter. The experience itself is so enjoyable that people will do it, even at great cost, for the sheer sake of doing it.
So it's like, again, these people who follow this highly dangerous adventure sports, for example, they will keep going at it. They'll keep going at it. They'll keep going at it. Why? Because it puts them in the present moment. Okay, it's putting them into that optimal experience.
It is not only creative professionals who require the high doses of concentration that promote flow. Most athletes, chess players, and engineers also spend much of their time on activities that bring them to this state.
Okay, so what is this? This is called, the zone. You'll find that athletes and sportsmen, when they reach the zone, when they achieve the zone, that is when they get optimal performance. Everything just seems to work that time. Why? Because they've jacked into the zone. Now when we are doing when we use the EM wave, where you can actually see whether you're stressed or not, in that you get a scorecard, and in that there is a zone. Now, if you are managing to keep yourself in that, that means you are attempting to hit the zone. So there's a very close relationship with our breathing pattern, with our heart rate variance, and our brainwave patterns, and naturally the whole system operating, because the heart and the brain, they control the entire body system. So if I can manage to, have conscious control over these two things, then automatically things start to become more effective for us. Now we have the mind mirror. I don't know how many of you have experienced it, but you can actually see your brainwave patterns on screen, and we have training tools to put you into a specific state of consciousness. You want to improve your beta frequencies, there are meditations, etc., to take you into that, for taking you into alpha, for taking you into theta, for taking you into delta. The Monroe stuff also works in the same way. So what are we doing? We are using technology to shift the way that we are perceiving and doing stuff. Okay, and all sports people use these tools. They use HRV, they use brainwave monitoring, they use regulation of the breath, they use all these things to enhance their performance.
According to Csikszentmihalyi research, a chess player feels the same way upon entering a state of flow as a mathematician working on a formula or a surgeon performing an operation. A professor of psychology, Csikszentmihalyi analyzed data from people around the world and discovered that flow is the same among individuals of all ages and cultures. In New York and Okinawa, we all reach a state of flow in the same way.
Understand, now when a surgeon is doing a surgery, if he has to constantly think about what he's doing and he doesn't do it instinctively in that state of flow, you'll find the best surgeons always hit a state of flow while they're doing operations, so they don't get tired. They'll just keep doing it. Any sportsman, they'll practice, but they put themselves into a state of flow when they're doing it. So you can actually get much more done more efficiently when you start going into that state of flow.
But what happens to our mind when we are in that state? When we flow, we are focused on a concrete task without any distractions. Our mind is in order. The opposite occurs when we try to do something while our mind is on other things.
So again, focused attention, not our brain can only do one thing at a time. We can only do one thing at a time. We cannot do two things at the same time at a conscious level. Okay, at a subconscious level, it may be possible, but not at a conscious level. Now, if I'm focused on reading the book, but I'm thinking of something else, then I'm not here, neither I'm there. So I need to start focusing. So the mind has to get in order. The mind has to synchronize. That is what hemisync does. It synchronizes the left side and the right side of the brain. So they start functioning as one unit. Not that the left side is doing something and the right side is doing something else.
If you often find yourself losing focus while working on something you consider important, there are several strategies you can employ to increase your chances of achieving flow. It's 3:14. Do you want to go ahead or do you? The 7 conditions for achieving flow. According to researcher Owen Schaffer of DePaul University, the requirements for achieving flow are knowing what to do, knowing how to do it, knowing how well you are doing, knowing where to go when navigation is involved, perceiving significant challenges, perceiving significant skills, being free from distractions.
So again, all these things are putting you into the flow, basically. Now, if I know what to do, or I'm instinctively guided to do what I do, okay. Now, when I know that, okay, I have to do this task, I'll just do it. When the task comes up, I have that instinctive feeling I know how to do it, or I learn how to do it. The more you practice doing the task, the better you become at that task. And naturally, know how well you're doing it. The more you do it, the better at it you'll become. That's why all sportsmen have to keep practicing the shots. They have to keep practicing the shots. So it becomes muscle memory. Then you don't have to think when you are doing it. Knowing where you're going. So Disha, what is your ultimate aim? So you are setting out an intent that this is what I want to achieve. And then when I'm saying, when I'm going into the flow, I'm allowing the universe to guide me automatically to reach my destination. Perceiving significant challenges. Yeah. So now as we go in our state of consciousness, as I told you so will become very, very common for you. Why? Because you're already perceiving the challenges that are happening, perceiving significant skills. So when you go into these expanded states, you'll also be guided. Okay, this is the next skill that you need to learn. Because you need to go there, you need to do this, so that you can achieve that. It becomes literally instinctive. Okay, and when you are in the flow, automatically you become one pointed. You get distractions will not affect you. So again, flow is something what we are wanting to achieve in every state of mind, every action that we take. If we can go into that flow, there'll be no conflict left. Everything will just happen in a magical way. Okay. Any questions, anyone, anything to say? We'll close for now because we're already 6:50, 3, what? Sorry.
17.
Anyone, anything to say? Yes, Sonal, you want to say something? Yeah, unmute.
Yeah, I just want you to please tell me what the 4 S's are again. You talk about them,
Four S's are, one is swata, that is by itself.
Uh-huh.
Then is sahaj, that is easy to do.
Okay.
The third is shresht, for the higher good or the best possible option.
Okay.
And the last is swikar, that is accept.
Okay. Okay, Priya. Thank you.
Okay.
And yeah, it is Vipassana. You were saying now, first 5-7 days ka.
Yeah.
So I've done Vipassana. So it is on the same lines. It is
Yeah. So
total
again, Vipassana, see again, Vipassana is taking you only to the first level.
Yeah.
The next is all eliminated.
So I wanted to know if there is any place where all of these are done.
Join the Monroe program.
Yeah. है कहीं पे होता है ये?
क्या अभी अपने करेंगे ना?
ये 4 हफ्ते वाला?
नहीं, not this program. But see, what does a Monroe program do for you? Okay, it will still your mind.
Yeah.
The moment it stills your mind, you become aware of your emotions also.
Yeah.
That emotional reactions will automatically start to cool down. The moment you are in a higher state of consciousness, you will jump the gun. You won't need these 3 things. You'll automatically go into the flow. All those 3 things were taking you into the flow, right?
Right.
But if I can jack in directly into the flow, then do I need to do all those things?
Magic. Okay.
So again, you need to engage it. I mean, there are people here who've attended the programs. I don't know what they'll say. Would someone like to comment? I see Sudha here. I see anyone else who's done the Gateway Lifeline 2 6-day programs.
Sorry, Niket, what did you ask?
I'm saying that I think the Monroe programs are a shortcut into the flow.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So what has been your experience? Tell Sonal, she's asking.
Yeah, so yeah, it really helped me with, to be in the flow. I mean, I've also done so many other programs and all that, but I think Monroe is really good that way. And you experience so much more and you become more aware of everything. Awareness increases a lot after this hemisync meditations. Yeah. And you don't react much.
Okay. Nice.
And you just lie down and everything happens.
Yeah, exactly. It's very easy. Very easy.
You don't have to go and isolate yourself, not talk, not eat properly, put yourself under rigorous strain. Over here, you lie down
Exactly.
Now, of course, we'll do it online. So you lie down in your own bed and do it.
Exactly.
So whenever we are
yeah.
facing a situation where we have to make a decision, वो 2 cross paths पे होते हैं. So then when we are talking about going with the flow and making a decision, just doing the task at hand and going with the flow, then what do we do on those crossroads?
See, I tell you what, Focus 10.
Yeah.
You do the excursion program, Focus 10 will help you so much.
Okay.
You'll be right, you'll be present at the moment. Your body will be relaxed, your mind will be alert, and you can achieve anything.
Focus 10, you said?
Yeah. That's the first focus. Yeah.
Okay.
You get a lot of clarity that way.
So if you...
But then you have to keep on doing this,
Practice.
I mean, you have to keep, this focus levels and all that, you have to keep practicing it a lot. And then you just
more you are in that
focus
state.
10
Yeah, the more you are in that state, the more normal it becomes for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when are we doing these programs, Priya?
I think we'll in September we'll have our first excursion online.
Okay.
We've done a lot of excursions in India. I think I'm the number 3 between Shivangla and myself. We are number 3 in the world of number of excursions we've done. So we've done a lot of excursions.
Okay. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to comment?
Yeah,
Bhabi.
Bhaiya, I want to say something.
Yeah.
आप awareness में क्यों अपने अंडर में क्यों नहीं करते? Why do you go to Monroe to do it? You are so experienced yourself. You are so knowledgeable yourself. I really mean it. Why do you have to go to Monroe to do it? Do it in awareness foundation.
Of course, awareness will be conducting it, right?
Yeah, but आप channel नीचे क्यों नहीं कर रहे हैं?
क्या चीज?
आप अपने बैनर के नीचे क्यों नहीं कर रहे हैं?
बाबा टेक्नोलॉजी तो उनका है.
Okay.
So can I say something here to Dolly? So Monroe Institute is an institute, right? And like Bhaiya says, the technology is there. He has taken a training course and he is giving it to us in India. He's the only one in India who's doing it. And that's a certified course. So a banner is still awareness, right? Awareness, everything is being done under his banner only. Awareness. Monroe is one part of it. Which, of course, like to answer Sonal's question. Sonal, I don't know whether she's there still, but yeah, all those things which she wants to do and those clarities and those going in the flow and all, like Sudha was also saying, in Monroe Institute, it's very easy. You immediately learn and you immediately are able to do a lot of things. So, of course, the excursion is the base course. Then you have to go up to many other courses.
If anyone says Monroe, to me, it doesn't matter. To be very honest with you, if anyone says Awareness Foundation, then I can associate with, yes, it's associated with them and it's associated with Niket Bhaiya. So I want to do it.
So you have to do one course with him, right? Monroe. Unfortunately, because of this COVID situation, he's not being able to do others. Probably he was doing 2 to 3 in a month all over India. If I am not wrong, Niket Bhaiya, correct me. So
editing that now.
Yeah, so now he's hoping to be able to manage it online, and I'm sure all of you, if you join, you will really feel the difference. And Monroe, yes, you will start talking about awareness and Monroe, and in the same breath then. Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay. So let's wrap up. I think we'll meet again at 3:45 for meditation.
So also, Niket, if I can say.
Yeah, go ahead, Kavita Didi.
I think I will not say better or worse because you may not approve, but you are, I would say, better than Monroe in a way because you have just put in everything together. You bring in your GDV at one point, then you bring your inner balance at the other point, and you bring something else. So it's just a beautiful package you give all of us. Thank you.
Yeah. So everything that we learn, we put it out there, huh?
Yes. And even what we are learning at book reading, so it's amazing. It's really a beautiful learning process. Yeah. What do you say, Mukul? Right?
It's a more wholesome package rather than concentrated only in one thing. So that is awareness for you.
And what's there in a name? As Shakespeare said, what's there in a name?
True.
And I think Bhaiya has the patience to even listen to all of us, our little questions, which can be very irritating. So his patience really gives us the confidence to even come up. And I mean, I would be too shy to even say so many things. But here I've just learned to speak up and say it. Yeah. So I think that's a very good, it really goes.
It just shows how aware Niket Bhaiya himself is.
No, yeah, I'll tell you, questions are the lifeblood of any organization.
To also tell one thing.
If you don't ask questions, learning doesn't happen. Okay, so questions are always welcome.
Overall development to everyone. आप वास्तु भी करा रहे हो, आप मुद्रा भी करा रहे हो, आप बुक रीडिंग भी कर रहे हो, आप मेडिटेशन भी करवा रहे हो. I'm मॉर्निंग में शिवा का वो क्लासेस भी हो रहा है. You're giving an overall development जो जितना ले सकता है ले लो. It's like that.
That's the idea, no? That's what awareness is all about.
Amazing. That's really commendable.
Put things in front of people and then they take what they like. That's all.
True.
That was the goal of awareness in any way.
My husband wants to meet you. He is saying, तुमको इतने दिन तक कोई तुम्हारा ध्यान पकड़ सका. I want to meet them.
Tell him to join the sessions. More the merrier, more the merrier.
I was just going to say, ask him to join, then he'll know.
Next time we come to Calcutta, he's going to tell you, I want to meet you.
Experience the experience for the experience, you know. Then you'll get the experience. Chaliye, so we'll see you all.
Okay.
Thank you, Bhaiya.
Thank you. Thank you, Bhaiya.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sri Mangla, for reading for us.